Hey, Danny. Thanks so
Hey,
much.
Chris.
Hey, thanks so much for being on the Heart Dealer podcast. I appreciate your time and you being here today.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
So, just like I was saying before we got going, free flow. I got a whole pile of questions. I just want to keep things real. I think once we get going, it's gonna feel good.
I
So,
think
we'll
so
jump
too.
in.
You got me at a good time. I've just come back from Glastonbury weekend. So I have that sort of post festival experience low after, being on a high all weekend and being on site. And we stayed down and we had some fun for the last day of Glastonbury. So I literally just flew into Dublin last night. But yeah, you're my only interview today. I'm full of energy and I'm excited about getting deep and chatting away.
Nice. Actually, Glastonbury was one of my starting off points because that was the
Cool.
20th that just happened at time of this recording, and that was a first for you. How did that? I don't want to do the cliche like how was the show, but like
Yeah.
what was the first time experience like?
It was honestly, it was so amazing. I expected it to be fun and it to be different to other festivals we played, but I don't think I quite realized how much the atmosphere would be different. It's just to any festival I've been in Ireland or all over the world. I mean, we've been lucky enough to play at Lollapalooza in Chicago and in Berlin, and we play big festivals all across the UK. But just the lack of any corporateness was really cool. Like the all the bars were like small little vendors, like someone who has just set up a little bar themselves. There was no branding, no big Heineken signs or Budweiser signs, and the food vendors as well. They weren't just trying to get you in and out and sell you the burger and move you on your way. It's
Yeah,
all about the experience. You're having these conversations with people, and it just had such a nice vibe. And then there's obviously the vastness of it. It's the biggest festival I've ever could even imagine. I mean, we were there for 2 days and I didn't get even near to walking the whole site. It's 250,000 people. But also just the sort of understanding of, like, there was no security there. Like, there was families with kids running around, and I said to my buddy, I was like, what if you lost your kid? Like, who do you go talk to? Like, there's no security. Like, there's no high vis jackets. There's no like information points. But it's just everyone looks after everyone, and his response was, you just turn to the person beside you and you guys would figure it out, and you get a group of people to help you out. And that's the whole, I think that sums up the festival, I think, as good as anything. And we've never even been there as punters, never mind actually performing. So this
yeah,
was our first time there and our first time performing, and the show was great too, which always helps. But sometimes with festival shows, you don't know how they're going to go, who you're clashing with, and we had a great crowd in a nice sized stage, little arena, and it was really fun. And we got the gig out of the way first. We had a big show in Ireland on Friday, and we flew over there Saturday morning. And there was always a panic of, where we going to make the show on time with no sound check and load in? Is the flight going to be delayed? How is it going to be getting onto site and getting our passes and all that sort of stuff? And everything just ran smoothly. The weather was perfect. Gig was really fun, and then we just had 2 days of being at a festival that was just a great experience. And yeah, so we really loved it. It was amazing.
that's awesome. I mean, you won't know this, but I lived in Europe for 4 years. I actually
Cool.
did high school in Prague, and I was really lucky to have had that experience. And I played semi-pro baseball, so
Cool.
Europe being so small and concentrated, I got to travel around and see so many different countries and festivals. I never, I've been to the UK a couple times. I've never been to Ireland. I've never experienced one of these ridiculously massive British festivals.
Yeah.
So the idea of 250,000 people gathered blows my mind. Um, has it always been not so corporate? Is that the the vibe of the festival, or was this year different?
No, I think Glastonbury prides itself on that in particularly, and that's why I think it's very different to those other festivals. As I say, we played plenty of big festivals in Ireland and in the UK and around Europe, and some of them are great. Most of them are amazing. In fact, all of them probably are good in their own way. But this felt different, and it wasn't just the size of it. That's our first time playing Glastonbury, but I think it has that history and it has that prestige, and It's funny because they notoriously pay bands really badly, but it's like the amount of promo we got, like even just from my own group friends, my buddies, like who know that I've been in a relatively successful musician for the last 15 years in Ireland, and they would never text me about shows we're doing, and we could be doing big shows in Ireland, and we're headlining a festival this weekend
Yeah.
in Wicklow when we're the headliners, and not one of my friends will text me and go, "Oh my God, that's awesome! You're headlining the festival." But when we're down the bill on Glastonbury, my phone was hopping all week. Oh my God, you're playing at Glastonbury. That's amazing. So it has that prestige, and the acts have it too. I mean, I heard a story. Now I don't know how much truth is in this, but the 1975 headlined on Friday, and I heard that they spent four times what their fee was for the festival on the production because they wanted to put on such an amazing show. They knew it was being broadcast live. They knew there's going to be so many people there, and they wanted to just put on such a good show so they were happy in losing money, not only losing money but losing a lot of money
Yeah.
on investing in the production because they knew it was, so many eyes were on them and it was such a big deal and they wanted to get the show right or whatever. So I think that just goes to show you that there still are definitely festivals that mean so much to bands that they will do them even if the fee isn't maybe quite what they normally get or whatever. And as I say, it is a bucket list sort of thing for a band, and it was for us, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. As I say, the gig was great. Getting to play it was great, but the experience of being at the festival was even more fun than I thought it would be, and I was expecting it to be great. And it's just the atmosphere of the whole place. You can't really compare it to another festival that I've been to anyway. So yeah, it was awesome, and definitely a sort of almost a full circle moment for us, I would say, for a band who is successful in Ireland, but not huge in the UK. We sell tickets, but we're
Mhm.
not huge. We're sort of big fish in small pond over here, but we've got to tour. We've got to play a lot of festivals around the world, and we have a great life, and we make a great living. We have our own label now and everything. But I suppose maybe we thought after we had done that major label situation and all that, and that's sort of in our rear view mirror now, that maybe festivals like Glastonbury might not be on the cards for a band like us who has a good few albums and is
Yeah.
independent at this stage. But then I suppose that's another sweet thing about Glastonbury. I mean, there was a guy on our stage, Roy Harper, who's probably in his late 70s, and apparently he played at the first Glastonbury, and he just sort of woke up out of his retirement to come down and play at this festival, and
Yeah.
so I think in one way I think that's cool the way they you don't have to be the hot new band on the block to get your slot. I think there's different ways of getting to play, and there's lots of bands on the bill. So anyway, we weren't really expecting it. I think I was sort of becoming resigned to the fact that maybe we'll never play there, but we got to do it, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, for the first time, who knows
Yeah,
how many more times they'll play. I really
yeah,
love the vibe. I obviously haven't been. I want to check this out now,
yeah,
but I love the not corporate. Not. I mean, obviously for profit is fine.
yeah.
There's this idea of conscious business that I just got onto recently where you can have companies, you can be for profit, you can do all these things, but you can do it for the fans, for the people, not for the shareholders, for the right reasons, right? You don't gouge
Exactly.
people, you don't rip people off. I love that they don't have these big signs everywhere, that it's more about the mom and pop shops, especially with like global climate now, right? We need more and more mom and pop love.
100%.
And you said a couple of interesting things like 250,000 people, there's not much security. I really think that most people in this world are genuinely just centered. They're genuinely good. They're generally like maybe have a slight lean left, right, north, south, whatever, but we're all the same. We all just want to be loved and give love and work hard and come home at the end of the day and be with our family or our friends, have a beer, whatever it is that you enjoy doing, and then leave me alone. So it sounds like this
100%.
festival is a perfect example of the way the society would normally function without too much intervention.
Exactly, exactly, and like I've almost felt guilty that I was surprised by it. Like it's just like, oh yeah, everyone will just get on. Of course they will, because as you say, everyone is inherently good, and and people will help each other out if anything goes wrong. Like you can help each other out, and like you say with the mom and pop vendors as well, just going around and when you ask for food of these vendors, instead of it's like, yeah, coming right up and they throw it out and it's next, 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 it's like, hey, what did you go see today? While they're cooking your burger and it's all just chilled and it's like, oh, well, actually, I was playing and all the vendors are like, oh my God, you were playing? How was that? And, it's just a really, really different vibe to any festival I've been before. In a way, it feels like a small independent festival, even though it's the biggest thing you've ever seen. And yeah, it's quite a small site in a weird way, even though it's huge. It takes so long to get to one side to the other just because of the crowds. But we covered like a lot of it. I think walking around, you can get to different stages, and it's just really well run. And as you say, not for profit in a way. I mean, the tickets are expensive, but relative to other festivals, they're not expensive. And for what you get for the 5 days, you can bring in your own alcohol, you can bring in your own water, you can bring in your own food. There's none of
Nice.
this checking your bag, and you can't bring that in. You got to buy it from our vendors, and it's $10 a water or whatever. It's all good. Like bring whatever you want in, and it is yeah, it was an experience, and it was eye opening. But like what you say, it's like it's almost simple. It's like, oh, why didn't I think of that? You don't need loads of security, and you don't need rules, and you can't do this, you can't do that, and don't bring that, and and it just works. 250,000 people, and I didn't even see an obnoxious group of 20 something year old, drunken guys who were just having a little bit too much fun. I didn't even see that. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It was just cool. It was just really, really cool. And, we were really, really honored to play there and privileged. And it will be something we'll remember, like, and yeah, definitely something to take from it, as you say.
Amazing. Would you say that's like one of your top career highlights so far?
I'd say it's up there for a festival wise. I mean, our own show we probably had, I'd say, 1,500, 2,000 people to come down and see us, which is great, and we love that, and we've definitely had shows that have been a bit more wow factor for us. Like, I mean, at our peak here in Ireland, we played in Kilmainham, which holds 15,000 people, and that was sold out. And that was a moment for us where it's like, wow. And then we've had some different bucket list moments over the years. I mean, even our last show in Vancouver, and we played out in the park in the amphitheater. What's you might know it. Uh,
I've only been
uh,
here for 4 years and
okay,
horrible with the names of things.
yeah, well, me too. And but we played in this beautiful park, and like there was like this amphitheater venue, and we couldn't believe we had 1,500 people, and we were like, wow, this is amazing to come see us in Vancouver, so far from home, and it was a lot of fun. Oh, the Macklin Bowl, that's where we played.
Okay.
It just came to
Okay.
me, yeah, and it was awesome. So and like so, oftentimes it's not just about which festival. Like, I mean, for us, we spent a summer in Vancouver, so getting back and playing there sort of meant a little bit more to us. Similarly to another time we spent a summer in Chicago when we were students, and then when we got to play at Lollapalooza Chicago, that would meant a lot to us, because we had gone there as punters when we were in early 20s. So sometimes a gig can mean a lot to you, and it's not necessarily about how well the show goes, or how many people you play to, I suppose. And but yeah, that was definitely special for a festival, especially in the UK. That was. I mean, I don't think that'll be topped. And again, we played some lovely festivals in the UK. V Festival, we played Isle of Wight, we played
Mm.
Tea in the Park in Scotland, and we played lots of different festivals in the UK. But that was definitely, yeah, definitely one we won't forget for sure.
I mean, that's a good point, and it's unfair that I haven't thought of it that way before because you just assume that, oh my God, the biggest show, the biggest milestone, that's what the band like reveres the most, but it might not be that. As you said, it might just be that we got to play this place where we grew up playing. That meant the most to us.
Yeah,
Uh,
and funnily enough, like sometimes, like I remember we did a huge festival here in Ireland a couple of years ago called Electric Picnic, and with festivals here, same as anywhere, unless you're the headliner, you don't get any sound check or whatever. So we just went in and we did it, and it went really well. We had a huge crowd. It went by in a flash. I was sort of nervous, excited, nervous. I don't get too nervous before our shows. Excited, nervous, but it sort of just it was over before I knew it. And the very next day, we had like this random corporate show in the UK to about 60 people. And it was a gig that none of us cared about, sort of, but the sound was really good. And I walked off stage. The boys in the band still slag me over this now. I walked over and I go, I actually think I enjoyed that more than I did, the big festival 2 days ago. And they're like, "What? You're crazy!" But sometimes you just have you're feeling the music, and it doesn't matter about the amount of people that's there. If it sounds good for you and you're just vibing, other times a gig can just pass you by and you're sort of chasing your tail. And I think we're lucky enough. We've been doing this for a long time that even if we maybe don't have our perfect gig on stage, we have a base level where we're tight enough, and we know what we're doing, and we can put across a decent show, even if it's not our favorites. But you do have moments, again, as you say, it doesn't need to necessarily be the biggest crowd ever. Sometimes a small venue or even a smaller crowd. Like again, with us, we're at different. We're an interesting band, I think, in the industry that it is at the moment. We were around. Our first album came out when people were still selling CDs. We
Yeah.
were very young. But our first album came out in 2007, and we sold a lot of CDs in Ireland, our first record, and then we lived through the whole download thing, iTunes and Napster and all that, and then we went to streaming and all that stuff, and then TikTok, and then we had the major. Our first label was a small label in Ireland. Then we went to the major deal. We signed to Universal Island, and we signed a big record deal, and then we moved to London, signed a big publishing deal, and then we came back, started our own label. And meanwhile, in the industry, all these changes are happening. And then you throw in that we're called the Coronas, and then this coronavirus came, and messed up the apple cart as well. But back to the venue size thing, we sort of got this thing where we're sort of different sizes in different countries. Obviously, every band has that, but it's also like when we go to Australia, for example, it'll be a lot of Irish people who have emigrated, and they will know. So there'll be probably maybe 75% expats, maybe 60-40, and then a few Aussies as well. But the Irish will know our earlier stuff, and they'll want to hear songs off the first couple of records because that's what they knew before they left. But when we go to the States or Canada, even, it's probably they more know our newer stuff and they don't really know our back catalogue. So, and in Europe, it's a little bit in between, probably more of the newer stuff as well. So we sort of, not only do we have different size crowds in different countries, like the way every band would, but we also have different sort of set lists, like, and we almost have to change our vibe. And I remember one time when I think we were in San Diego on a J1 like a long time ago as students, and the Charlatans were playing in San Diego, and like that we went to see them, and they didn't play any of the songs that they're a UK band. We had seen them back home in Dublin, and they were almost like a different band because the set list was so different. A certain album had taken off a bit in the US, but the ones that we knew from back home weren't their big songs. So and now I can sort of relate to that. At the time, I was like, "What the hell?" But so yeah, we have fun trying to balance the set list, and it's exciting. Keeps us excited. So when we go to different countries, play to different size crowds, but also different set lists, and we're like, okay, let's lean more on the newer stuff, or let's go back to playing the older stuff.
Yeah. It's funny, before that we started recording, we were talking about, services we have, and I said the ideal fan psychographic, like knowing your demo, knowing your audience. I've never even considered that with bands with a bigger back catalog, there's even more to consider in terms of location and whatnot. And I went to a show last night. I saw Wu Tang and Run the Jewels opened. And at one point, Wu Tang was talking to the crowd, and they're like, who here is from the '70s or born in the '70s? And they went all the way through to the 2000s. Um, and we had kids like sitting, I'm 45. We had like, 16-year-olds sitting behind us, and it was just wild to think that all of these people got introduced at different times, to this band, and they might have different entry points, different singles, different albums, different eras. I have certain bands that I fell in love with an album, and then people will say, "Oh, it's their worst album." And it's, well,
Yeah,
that's the album that I first discovered, so for me, it means a lot.
yeah,
And so it's so cool to hear you say, like, depending on where you're playing, the audience is like early Coronas, late
yeah.
Coronas, and then you have to always counterbalance for that.
100%. And what we've realized in the last couple of years as well, like what you say, and that is one secret to, I think, our longevity here in Ireland, especially the fact that we still sell the amount of tickets that we do here. And we're very lucky to be able to do that in this climate. But now our demographic is so wide, like what you're saying with Wu Tang. Like we have fathers and sons who come to our shows together, and mothers and daughters, and all ages, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes you look at a front row of a show, and you're like, these kids, like they probably were toddlers when our first album came out, you know. And likewise the other way, you know. I mean, I always have this sort of not this is my like go-to joke when I meet someone, and they go, oh, you know, when we started off, I used to have people coming up to me and go, oh, my daughter is a big fan of your band. And now I have girls coming up to me going, oh, my mother is a big fan of your band. But in truth, the truth is somewhere in the middle. You know, we have a wide demographic, and as I say, it is cool that, and I think that is key to our longevity, is that we're not niche. You know, our first album especially was very like, we were students and we were singing songs about being students. But I think as we grew up, our music just evolved slightly. You know, I don't, you know, we're not changing the wheel musically. We're not Radiohead or anything like that, but we write music, honest music, and try and write good songs. And I think people have grown with us and evolved with us, and that's why we have different generations who have, some who have stuck with us from the start, and some who are just sort of getting on board in the last couple of records. And yeah, it's interesting, but it is, we're in a very, you know, lucky place to have that, you know.
I mean, a lot of it is probably you staying true to yourself, being authentic, and making the music that you want, right? Fans can tell if something is like contrived or part of a like a bandwagon versus this is what we like and this is what we fucking write.
100%. And yeah, you said that to me earlier on about authenticity, and that's the only thing I give other bands when they're asking me for advice. I like, sometimes we'll have new bands supporting us or whatever, and I'm like, don't worry too much about TikTok or what's cool or what's getting played. The most important thing is the only way you're going to break through is if you have something authentic. That's what's going to connect. It's not what's current, what other artists are doing. You know, you have, there is a certain amount of randomness. You, if what you're doing is authentic to you, then it has a chance of breaking through. And that is something that we always, as much as we could, because oftentimes we get caught up in it. And I remember when we signed to Ireland, I was like trying to write singles, trying to write three and a
Mhm.
half minute songs that might get played on Radio One, BBC Radio One, which was the big thing at the time. And that got into me a bit, you know. And I was like, oh, you know, even though maybe that wasn't the music I was listening to all the time. And that's where the conflict then comes in. And you go, am I writing this music because I really like it, or, and like, we'd end up with songs on the album going, yeah, well, that song could be a single, but I don't really like it, but it could be a single, so we better put it on. Like, and we
Yeah,
do not do that anymore. You know, since we started our own label, we are only trying to, you know, please ourselves, which has meant that we've probably got less radio play. But I mean, we've had a lot of radio play in our time, and I think in order to have a chance of getting more radio play, if we're authentic and they forget about us for a couple of albums, and maybe we might stumble across something that is, oh, well, that's sort of
yeah,
cool. I mean, I think that's a better chance of us finding an avenue back into having any chance of going mainstream again or whatever, getting bigger, I suppose, or catching on in some way. If you try and contrive, as you well know, Chris, it's
yeah.
not going to work. Like, you know.
I mean, I think that is the eternal artistic struggle that is even more prevalent now because of the way society is set up. Is I'm of the opinion that creation is for creation's sake. Whether you're making music or something else, you're doing it because you want to, you need to, you feel it. You layer on business and success and fame and accolades and all the stuff, you know, we've become used to over the last 100 years, and it changes the reason for doing things. And that was I guess it leads me to a question I was going to ask earlier about Glastonbury. You
Sure.
said, you know, they're famous for not paying artists well, but then there was this example of an artist that, like, you know, put four times the amount into the production because it's a big opportunity. How do you balance, like, the need to create and make your music and keeping it authentic to you, and also the need for success or the business side of the music, because so many young artists are like, oh, I just need a label and I just need 1 million streams, and I thought you were I thought you just needed to make music. You know what I mean? Like if
Absolutely,
it's
yeah.
successful, that's a whole separate ballgame.
Yeah. Well, I think for us, even though, as I said, our first record came out when still physical CDs were a big thing, and our first album went double platinum here, so we sold a lot of physical albums. Like, but for us, our livelihood, and we always considered ourselves a live band more than anything, and live is really where is the only place I think to realistically try and make a living from what we do, unless you're huge and and we're a relatively successful band, i.e. that's, we're full time at it and we've got a couple of number ones in Ireland and we get to tour the world, and I think that's success. But we don't make money off streaming, and we own all our masters. Never mind the splits when you sign to a label, and all those sort of things. So I think if anyone is looking for a label to come and save them, or think equate that to making it, they're totally misguided, because the music, as you say, has to come first, and I think we always knew that, even when we signed to a major label. I mean, they're useful in a lot of ways, don't get me wrong. And if you use them in the right ways, they are so useful. And I would
Use
roll it.
use
Yeah,
them, not be
use.
used by them.
Well, that's the key, is trying to keep hold of as much you can. And we were at a very good position, really, because we had already had a bit of success in Ireland when we got offered a big record deal in the UK. And what we said to them was, okay, listen, we've come this far in Ireland by ourselves. So can we just keep the Ireland pot separate?
Mhm.
Because and we were like, if we get bigger in Ireland, you can take your cut of that, but basically you can have the rest of the world and let us have that little thing that we built ourselves.
Yeah.
And unusually they agreed. And the other thing they agreed, which is unusual, is they sort of said, "Oh, we see you guys as a long term project." They gave us probably the BS that they give a lot of bands. And it's like, "Oh, we're not just looking for that one hit. We'll develop you and we'll release a few singles and we'll build it up." And then they released the first single, and it got a lot of radio play in the UK, but it didn't hit on Radio One, which is the big one that they aim for. And as soon as it didn't hit on Radio One, we were a statistic then of 9 out of 10 bands that just sort of you don't hear about. But thankfully they let us have the masters and go back, and we own that album. So,
Nice.
but again, we were in an unusual position because we already had some success in Ireland. So when they were trying to negotiate this deal, we had a good lawyer and he was like, "Yeah, you can take whatever you want of the success you create for this band on top of what they already have." But they've got this base here, so and in fairness to Ireland, they let us have the album back, and it became ours, and then we started our own record label for the next one, and I think we learned a lot along the way from that whole experience. But again, yeah, the labels, like, they do have power. Of course they do. Like, you'd be stupid to say, "Oh no, you don't need it." Like, they've so much power, too
Mhm.
much. But if you the point is, if you make that your aim, you're sort of you're on to a losing ticket already.
Yeah.
That has to be something that comes when you're already onto something. And the longer you can, I think, the longer you can put off signing, the stronger position you'll be in, especially with publishing as well.
That's interesting. The longer you can hold off in signing, the better position you'll be in. I haven't heard it phrased that way before. There's,
Yeah,
I guess, a lot of truth to that. I'm all about staying independent and working with a team
yeah,
and finding a good team, but finding teams that believe in what you're doing, that aren't only there because they're getting something out of it. And that's tough, right? Like a lot of
tough.
what we do, most of what we do is service based. And so some people are trepidatious saying, like, well, we're paying you, so this and that. Finding that balance is important. And I think that the less you give away, the better. Going back to my question though, like how do you balance staying authentic versus getting paid for the gig? At what point do you say, yeah, we'll do a whole bunch of these gigs for free because we just love performing to this crowd, or strategically because that you're at Glastonbury and it's going to get, so much marketing for you? How do you pick and choose?
Yeah, well, you have to have conversations about everything that comes in, and I think one thing that we learned a lot along the way. So we had an independent label for our first couple of records here in Ireland. Then we moved to London and signed to a major, and we saw how that whole thing worked, and signed our publishing away as well for a couple of years. And when we got all that stuff back and set up our own label, and it's really just the three of us in the band and our manager Jim. Like what you say, we hire a great team around us, and we have PR people all over the world, and we license the albums out to different record companies around the world. But really, we just have those conversations, and there's almost two iterations of the band now. We have our creative team. It's our WhatsApp group of just myself and our bass player and our guitar player, and that's the
Yeah.
music band. And when are we writing? And here's a new demo I wrote. And what about this gig? And let's talk about the set list. And then we have a WhatsApp group with our manager, and that's all business stuff. And that's oh lads, we've been offered this gig. The fee is this. Are we up for doing it? Or what do you think? And that's like a different side of your brain that
Yeah.
has to deal with it. And for me, we have a democracy in the band. We help each other out, and also we delegate the work, I think, well. Our manager is really the forefront of our label as well, I suppose. And we're planning already to record for our next record early January next year. And he's sort of getting the wheels in motion and talking to producers and making plans and relaying stuff back to us. And he's out there making the calls and making it happen. And I sort of would be doing a lot of the promo, like chatting to you, and I'm probably the
Mhm.
main songwriter in the band as well. So when I'm off, I'll go away and work on a lot of ideas. Our bass player is like the forefront of all our social media and all our online presence, and he's the one answering everyone's Instagrams. If there's DMs asking about gigs or asking about shows, or just keeping an eye on things, putting content up, whether again authentic content to us. We're not putting up TikTok dances. We're putting up shots from shows, and we're putting up stuff that we think is true to us and is authentic. And then our drummer is more of our live production, manager. So he's getting together the backing tracks and making sure the set list is running smoothly. He's in constant contact with our sound engineer about what gear do we need for this show, and what band are we going to use. Are we going to use our bigger band, because we tour with a couple of extra of session musicians as well. So
Yeah.
that's the way we've handled it, really, in answer to your question. Sorry, it's a long-winded answer,
No, no,
but
no.
yeah, we delegate the work between us, and we know what our strengths are. And that was something that sort of happened organically, which I think we are lucky that it happened that way, as opposed to, okay, that's your job, and that's your job. That was just our roles that we fell into. And I think probably you can tell me this, you probably know more than me, but I think a successful business, oftentimes, if it's a startup especially, you need to know your strengths and then know your business partner's strengths
Yeah.
and what they're good at, and what value they bring. And we just sort of fell into our roles, and that really helped us, because I remember when we did sign to Island Records, I got a bit caught up in the promo aspect of it, and why aren't we on this playlist, and look at this other band. And I just got a bit caught up in my own head of, well, look at that band got that gig, and that band are getting played on Radio 1, and they got this magazine, and why didn't we get this, and like emailing people. And it wasn't healthy for me, and it took me a while to realize, okay, I got to let go a little bit. Let's just do what I'm good at, and that's all I can control. So maybe if I write some better songs, that was one thing we realized when we started our own label, right? So when you have a major label, when something goes wrong, you go, oh, they didn't promote it right. They didn't put it on. They released the wrong track, or they put us in with this other band, or whatever. They gave more attention to this other band, or whatever. But when you're your own label, you've no one to blame if it's not going well except
Yep.
yourself. So you end up working harder, and it's like any independent business. You're like, oh God, like I wake up today, it's like if I don't do any work, nothing will happen. So I've got to get up, and it made us all work harder. And it gave the band a new lease of life. To be honest with you, our last three records now have been on our own label, and our last four actually, and
Four. I was gonna say.
yeah, last four, yeah, and just with our own record label, and it gave us a new lease of life, even musically, I think, because I often coming back from being dropped by Island Records, that was the first knock that we had taken as a band, and it hit me hard because we had always been baby steps forward. The Crones, we were just a student band, word of mouth. We got a small indie label here in Ireland. We played up through the venues, moved our way up. Then we started to do a little bit of touring. Then we started to have a little bit more success, and all of a sudden we were playing like arenas in Ireland, and we hadn't really toured too much out. And then we signed the big record deal, and it was all steps forward. So when we got that first knock, it hit my confidence, and I was like, "Is this it? Maybe we should just." And I was actually our drummer who said to me, "He's like, Danny, like, no, we're fine. Like, don't worry. This is just one little knock." And I ended up writing a lot about that on our Trust the Wire album, which was pretty much about us trusting ourselves and the fallback of being dropped by a major and how that hurt and trying to be the best band we can be, which is a topic that I often go back to. Self
Yeah.
improvement, trying to be the best person I can be, the best singer I can be, the best friend, the best bandmate, the best brother, the best son, the best, uh, so, whenever I'm struggling to write, I always end up writing about self improvement, me trying to be better, us trying to be a better band, trying to remind ourselves the reasons of what we do. And
Mhm.
usually it's clouded in a bit of a love song or hidden. It's not just like, people often think that some love songs I write are, about love, but they're actually about the band and they're about me and they're about us trying to be better. And
Yeah.
that has worked for me as a writer to delve into that whenever I'm struggling.
You touched on so many different things there that I want to
Mhm.
comment on. I
Sure.
think for me the most important was the self awareness. You said something that surprised me in a really positive way. I too am guilty of this and have been guilty of this most of my life until some heavy stuff happened. I got knocked back, and then it forced me to start to reassess, like, what is the issue here? And I went internally. You said if the label isn't producing, people will naturally gravitate towards what are you doing wrong versus, oh, maybe I should just write better songs. I can't believe how important that is. And I mean, good for you for having that self awareness because I see this happen all the time now where artists are like, well, this isn't hitting. And, I don't, it must be the Spotify algorithm. It must be streaming. I need to do more IG, like whatever it is. Never once does an artist say, maybe that song isn't that good, or
Yeah,
maybe I should have, maybe it could have been stronger, or maybe this album is a representative representation of me and my creative output now, and all of these trials and tribulations will lead to a stronger album the next time around. Not everyone has like a home run first time out, right? It doesn't happen. And some bands have the home run the first time out, but then their next 10 albums no one cares about because it's still that first album. It's
absolutely.
That's why I think this conversation about creativity and authenticity is so important because it's not about the success. Success comes organically if you have something that is really true, really pure. There's a little bit of luck, there's a little bit of amazing musicianship.
Exactly.
Um,
But like what you say, and success is all relative as well. Like that is success is a word, and I think, oftentimes people have it like, and I used to have it. When you're talking about when I was, it was like, if we just got this, then I'll be happy. If we just got this next thing, if we just got a little bit bigger, outside Ireland, then I'll be happy, and then I can. It's just not true. When we started this band, we were four mates in high school saying if we got to play at any festival at any time at any slot, that would make me happy. The goalposts keep changing, they keep moving. So if you're putting your happiness on your ambition, and you think that that's success, that you're gonna be just you're gonna fail. Like you're never gonna be happy, And I always say there's no guarantee. Chris Martin from Coldplay, one of the biggest bands in the world, there's no guarantee he's happier than I am because his
yeah,
band are bigger,
yeah,
and he might be miserable, and he probably not. He seems not, but there's no guarantee that your success will make you happier. And it took us a long time to realize that, and it was all those knockbacks. We had a guitar player, our best friend Dave, who left the band. That was a knock for us as well, and he just wanted to do something different. And we had a big moment where, are we going to keep going or not, or
Hmm.
without him? And it was actually him who said to us, guys, you guys started the band before I joined. You guys are still loving it. I think you should go on without me, and I'm not built for it anymore, and I need a change in my life. And he encouraged us. Not only gave us his blessing, but he encouraged us. But we've had lots of little knocks like that. But like at the end of the day, we're releasing music that we want to release. We don't have a major label telling us what to do or telling us what to do, and we're picking our touring schedules, and we have all that control, and we can afford to pay our mortgage or our rent or whatever,
Yeah.
and we have an audience, a fan base who like what we do all over the world, really, and obviously it's smaller in different countries and different cities, but to me that's success, like, and I feel very lucky to be in that position, I suppose, that we have all those things, and definitely there was a time where it was like, oh well, if we don't make it outside Ireland, then it's a failure. Like, if we don't become the next Snow Patrol or the next, whoever it may be, then we're totally, we've lost, and it took me a while to realize that, and because I realized that even if we did, I might not be happy. And it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, and so you can't equate success to happiness almost in an ambition way. Now, don't get me wrong, it's good to be ambitious, and we still have ambition, and we still want to work hard. And, I wouldn't be on here talking to you about our tour and about what we have if I didn't care. We also care, and we want to work hard, but we've learned to enjoy the journey. I think that's the
Yeah.
key, and enjoy the process and enjoy it as you go, and also enjoy the wins, enjoy the little successes. Like this weekend in Glastonbury, we stayed on the Sunday. We could have just come back, done our set, and come back and said, no, this is a once in a lifetime experience. Let's embrace it and go for the full weekend and have fun. And some of the crew and the band stayed with us, and we had a ball, and enjoying those moments that go well, and going, you know what, well done, and because again, it could always be bigger. Like, our tent wasn't completely packed, like, so I was like, the crowd was good, but I suppose it could have been better. But
Yeah.
like, is that the attitude to have? No, like, you can always find something. And again, Chris Martin's selling out arenas all over the world. He probably has. Oh, we only did 5 nights in Buenos Aires this time. Last tour we did 6. Like, is that you can always let the negative thoughts get in, and I think you need to enjoy the process, and we do. We still love it. We still love the process of being on tour and the whole journey.
Yeah. I mean, it's such an important message, and a lot of these things in life you just have to live and realize on your own. You can't force someone to learn or have that aha moment. But I agree with you. Right? There's this expression that if you're living in the future, you're living in anxiety. If you're living in the
Yeah,
past, you're living in regret. If you're present, that's where you want to be. I mean, there's a cliche, right? The present is a gift.
yeah.
It's so true, and you can balance living presently and being ambitious and not hanging your hat on the future. Um, I think it was a year or two ago, I was watching some clips on YouTube, and Tony Robbins said that the easiest way to stay present is to just practice gratitude. And the more you practice gratitude, the more you're grounded, the more you're present. And the more you're present, ironically, the better content you create, which leads to better success, which is another thing that I reference quite often. Is Rick Rubin, talks about how the end result of the song doesn't matter. What matters is the creation of the song. And as soon as you start to put your attention and power into the end result, now the creation is suffering, which means the end result is going to suffer anyways. So I'm with you, whether it's music or business or parenting or marriage, whatever it is. Just be present, be grateful, put in your effort as much as possible, enjoy the process, and you'll most likely have the best possible outcome and success and accolades because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love those Rick Rubin quotes, and whenever I'm struggling to write, I always remind myself to that of that. Like, there's only one person you need to impress. That's yourself. Like, write
Yeah.
something that you like, and that's almost a relief for me, because once you trying to second guess what's popular at the moment, or what's out there, or what's doing well, you, it's just too much to comprehend. And there, I love when like a song out of nowhere just becomes huge, and it's something different. It's something like, even when Take Me to Church by Hosier sort of blew up, and he was just an Irish guy, and all of a sudden it was everywhere, and it was just a good song, and he didn't have a story. He wasn't young and good looking and cool as such. Yeah, Andrew was a cool guy. Don't get me wrong, but that wasn't his selling point, I suppose. It was just about the song, and that's always heartening for me. But yeah, I totally agree. Living in the present, otherwise, you haven't got a chance, really. So like that, I try to be grateful, and sometimes you need to remind yourself as well, and whatever tricks you have to help you have that, whether it's meditation or whatever it might be. I'm all down for that.
So let me ask you, like, what are, one or two of the things that you do to practice that gratitude and that stillness in your crazy world?
I love sport, man. I know my ears perked up when you told me that you were a professional baseballer, because I play Gaelic football here, which is the Irish sport, a bit like Aussie rules, and I played that to a high level here. And it's not professional here anyway, but I played under 18 at the highest level you can get. I
Yeah.
played for my county, and I still try and play a bit for fun when I can. And sport is my thing. I play golf too. I know I don't look like a typical golfer, but I mean, golf to me is my yoga. It's my meditation. My phone is away. I am not worried about anything for those 4 hours except how bad I am at golf, and I'm trying to hit a ball into a hole, and it's just like out in the fucking environment, in the
Yeah.
atmosphere, and playing, and little things like that are really, really important to me. And exercise, just like whatever little things that are controllable, I am like, they are part of my routine, and they're the things that help me grounded. I can't say I meditate or with any purpose, but I have my things that I know for me, what is important to keep me at a level. And
Yeah.
sport for a big one is playing, but also watching, enjoying sports, but and just being around the right people as well is key for me. And yeah, I mean, exercising is so important for me. I'll feel a bit down if I don't do exercise for like 3 days,
Yeah.
even when I'm on tour, and we could be traveling. It's like you load into a venue before a sound check, and you're lifting all the gear in. Like, I might just do a 20-minute jog before I have my shower, and it's not about being really fast or competitive. It's just about getting the heart rate going and also I find it a really cool way to see a new city. And I love touring. I love just putting the headphones in and walking around the city, or jogging around the city, as I say.
Mhm.
And those sort of things are really important for me, just to keep me on a level. Yeah.
Yeah, that's smart. I mean, you take advantage of the fact that you're somewhere new, you're seeing something and getting exercise. It's, again, in life, it's the simple things, it's basics, right? Food, sleep,
Mm.
exercise, that all helps. Um, I saw, I can't remember if I mentioned this on a previous podcast or not, but I saw recently the statistic that, like, after 30, people don't act like kids. People don't do the simple things that they used to do, like the jumping, the climbing, the swinging. I'm 45. I've got kids under 10, and they rip around the playground. Like, they're doing stuff that Navy SEALs do, right? They're swinging
Yeah.
from bars, and they're like pulling themselves up. And I can't do any of it. I'm trying to get back to it, but even just the jumping, the skipping, uh, it's there's something about it that's so good for the body, but also the mind, because it's youthful, it's
Yeah,
free, and
keeps you young. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, absolutely. And my brother has two young kids, and I can see it in him. They're keeping him young for sure. I don't have any yet, but maybe one day. But yeah, it is funny the way it's natural to them to just do all that Navy SEAL stuff. Like, that's not anyone telling them to do it. That's just what
oh,
feels right.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
as you say, that's why people lose it as they get older. Yeah.
You're just as an aside, you're never too old to have kids. There's this stupid stigma societally now about, like, oh, you have to have kids by 30 or this or that. You have them when you have them, if you have them. You don't have to have them,
Yeah,
but if you do, it's the best thing ever. I have
absolutely.
two, and I'm hoping to have more still.
Cool, cool. Yeah, well, like that. That's good advice. A good friend of mine. So I just turned 40 this year. In fact, all the band turned 40. We had a joint 40th, which will tell you I vouch for any band who have been together for over 15 years to decide to have a 40th birthday together. That's how close we are. Maybe we're too close, but we're still friends after all this time. And we decided,
Good.
well, our other halves pretty much decided for us and organized it for us. But it was a lot of fun. But yeah, a friend of mine had his son or had his first daughter when he was like 21, and then he had his a son when he was 44, and
Nice.
he said the 44 was better. He was like, I was more comfortable in myself. I had more time to be a dad. I wasn't chasing my career as much, and I was more present. And so I think that'll be me. I'll be an older dad like you if you go again.
I think I will.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually just had and lost my third child. It was a
Oh,
horrific experience, and
I'm so sorry to hear that.
thank you, I appreciate it. I mean, in life, all we have is we just got to keep going,
Yeah,
and
of course.
you can grieve while going,
Yeah,
but that didn't stop me from not wanting to do it again. And in
yeah,
fact, at some point, we probably will.
great.
But I guess my point is that I'm 45. People think like, "Oh, you're supposed to live your life." I am. I am living my
Yeah, that
life.
is living. Yeah,
Love balancing everything. I can go to the Wu-Tang show and come home and then wake up and record, podcasts with
yeah,
you and still be a great dad later today. You can do it all. It just comes down to management. And I think you hit the nail on the
balance.
head earlier when you talked about the conversations within the band, and then we have the other ones with the manager, and then there's you have to know when to outsource different things to different people, otherwise you're going to burn out. I have an amazing team that I work with on my side, thankfully. I do as much as I can and I grind hard, but as soon as I feel like, okay, you're burning the candle at both ends too much, where can you shift or offload something? It's no different with
One,
parenting, with life.
yeah, 100%. And we find that with the band and our extended crew as well. Like I find the more responsibility that we give them, saying our lighting engineer, I'm like, how do you feel about like designing a package, and working on something before the shows so we can put something on the screens and all that. And because I know they're better at that stuff than me. And the more that you delegate to people, the harder they work. I find,
Yeah,
it's like if you trust someone to do something for you and for the family and for the band, the brand, the more you'll get out of them as opposed to just do the bare minimum and take their paycheck or whatever.
yeah.
Uh, and I think that's the same as you say in all walks of life, and having people that you trust and just not taking everything on yourself because it's gonna be tough. Yeah,
It's so funny how you get older and then the cliches start happening, and you realize them, you live the cliches, and you're like, oh my God, all these sayings exist for a reason. Like, kids grow up so fast, everyone hears that. And then you start to see your kids grow up, and you're like, what the hell? I was just going to say that what you put in, you get out, right? So the amount of love and effort and time and money you put into something without caring about yourself is usually what you'll get out of it.
absolutely,
It sounds
for
like you
sure.
guys put in a ton of everything into what you do, and then that's why your success and your brotherhood continues.
Yeah, well, I definitely think our friendship and as you say, our brotherhood has definitely helped because we're all still equally into it. Like, and again, just touching back on our guitar player who just lost his love for it, Dave, who left the band a few years ago, and his heart wasn't in it anymore. And whereas the three of us, the four of us with our manager, it
Yeah,
was we still had it in us, and we saw that, and he did it as well. Um, because in a way in a band I think it can be almost like a marriage. If one person in the band is unhappy and just not enjoying it and not just phoning it in, it's going to weigh down the whole marriage. It's going to weigh
mm,
down the whole band. I think that was just beginning to happen to us when Dave realized that himself, and he called it and stepped away. He's like, he goes, I know I'm not happy here, but it's not fair on me being unhappy around you guys. So, so I think that we learned a lot from that within ourselves as well. And of
Mm.
course, we've all had ups and downs in the band, and we look out for each other. We're brothers, as you say. Like, we've been together since we were kids, and we've known each other our whole lives. So we're very lucky. I always feel I sort of feel lucky in comparison, say, to like my sister is a singer songwriter, and she has her manager and they're a team, but she's also it's just her. Whereas I feel lucky that we have the bond of the
Yeah.
band, and we can lean each other when things are going well. We've got three other people to enjoy it with. If things are going bad, you've got three other people to commiserate yourself with, and it's important to have that team in it together. And I think, again, that sort of comes a bit from my sport background as well. It's like,
Yeah.
I'll be almost before we go out on stage, having a little team talk, like, and I think that stuff is cool. It works.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting point too, because I just while you were saying that, I was thinking everyone's creative process is different, right? Like for you, making music is different than your sister making music, and for her, maybe that's more of a solitary process and a healing thing. Whereas with you, it might be the same, but you enjoy doing that creation with other people. There's
Yeah.
certain things that I do, like I love running my business with all of the people that I work with. They're incredible minds, and we get to create. My favorite part is when we're on with an artist and we have a jam session, which is basically like marketing and branding and ideation. But then I want to go and play golf by myself and not talk to anyone. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
how are you? How are you?
I'm the same. Like, like, even when we're busiest, I'll be more insular. Like, and I'll have my headphones in, and I'll be just listening to my podcasts. And my girlfriend says to me, she's like, "Oh, you're in that pre-gig mode. If we have a big show,
Yeah,
and I don't mean to be withdrawn, but that's just my natural." And I get, I'm gonna just go off and do, and I'll run some random errand because I know I can do it by myself. Like, I'm like, does anyone need anything picked up from this store that's a 2 hour drive away? Because I'm gonna go there right now and drive back, because that's actually what I want to do, is be
yeah,
by myself in the car. So I have become more self aware of that stuff, and just knowing when I need to, because I think as a singer as well, you need to, when you're going up on stage, you need to be extroverted, I suppose, and just
absolutely.
be the face of it, and that can be tiring. Oftentimes, if I've got like a few interviews in a row, even though I'm just sitting here chatting and I'm chatting about music, and it's fun. Often at the end of it, I'm like, I'm totally wrecked. I'm sure you're the same. If you're at your laptop all day just chatting to people and sorting out things, you're going to be tired, and you need some time to yourself. And I've gotten better at realizing that, and sort of just saying to whoever else is in my life, you know what, I just need to, like, even when we're on tour, sometimes I'll be, the guys be like, oh, we're going to go for lunch here. What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm okay. I'm just going to go over
Yeah,
here and put my headphones in and just eat by myself. And if they arrive in that restaurant, I'll go, you know what? I didn't really fancy this place anyway. I'm going to go next door. And it's just to be by myself. It just doesn't matter what I'm eating, like.
yeah,
So, and I think that's important. And also, that's one thing that we're good at within the band as well. We can sense when other people are like that. So when from your best buddy, or the guys are my best friends, really. So when, oh, they need a little bit of space there. They're tired, or.
yeah.
So
And that's
it's yeah.
that. And I think that's okay. And that's another thing that's super important for us as humans to realize is that it's okay to be in a shit mood. It's okay to be
Yeah.
sad. It's okay to cry and grieve and do all these things. Like that is the human process. And I don't know. I feel like I was guilty of this for a long time. Most of my life, I thought that I had to always be like, a rock and
Yeah.
happy and positive and empower people. And I ended up burning myself out because I wasn't filling my own cup because I thought that I had
Yeah.
this super high standard and I had to do that all the time. And then, through therapy and help, conversation, living, I realized, okay, so the more that I take care of myself, ironically, the more that cup will be full and the more I'll be able to be that rock and that help and whatnot.
Exactly. The
So,
bet the better person you'll be able to be for other people if you're in a better place.
yeah,
Exactly. And
exactly.
like that, I definitely went through in my early 30s, for sure, mid 30s, where I realized that, and I started to change, and I was always a people pleaser as well, and if anyone asked me for anything, I would always be like, yeah, I'll do that for you, and like really sometimes it can be so exhausting, and or if anyone's
Mm.
online asking me like for a video or a charity something, and I used to feel like I had to do everything that everyone asked me, but I realized it wasn't me actually being selfish if I didn't do certain things. It was actually for the benefit of everyone. And it would be better use of my time in the long run if I look after myself and what is healthy for me,
Yeah.
then I'll be better in the long run. So you have to get that balance right. And it sounds like you have it too.
Working on it. I don't think it ever
Yeah.
stops.
No.
I want to talk about label stuff. You actually
Yeah.
beat me to a lot of my question, which is okay
Cool.
because it's been a good
All right.
conversation. I want to talk about label stuff. I want to talk a little bit
Sure.
about you. Um, so three, like you had a show, you had a big show, you signed to 3U. I think you did 3 albums with 3U, then
Mm.
you did one with Island, and then now the last four on your own imprint, which is
Yeah.
fabulous. Um, you actually said something earlier. We're talking about money and monetizing the business of a band, and I think there's kind of like three P's. I could be wrong, but I think there's three P's, right? The things, if people are focused on how do I monetize this artwork in the musical world, there's publishing, performance, and physical or product. Those are the three P's I think that really need to be focused on in order to
Mm.
generate revenue. But like, what's your take on things, having now been from an indie to a major to totally self-releasing? Do you feel like there's certain things that are more important or less important? Just give me more about the label experience because I want to show the artists that aspire to be like you that you don't have to go through these traditional models, that you can be
No.
independent, that you can, you can do physical first. There's this huge idea now that if you don't want to deal with the streaming algorithms or, get low pay from streaming services, which isn't necessarily the streaming services fault, it's usually the labels and the publishing
Yeah.
houses that have deals with the streaming companies that cause small margins, right?
Mm.
If you don't want to deal with that, then just don't stream. Put your shit
Yeah.
on Bandcamp or release it independently. You could do physical first and generate sales that way. Just my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, and I've heard about acts doing that as well, and I think that's an interesting way because there is that thing with a lot of artists have is if I put a song out and it doesn't get lots of streams straight away, then it's total failure or whatever, and maybe holding on to it and doing like a small run on physical or Bandcamp or whatever is a good idea to just sort of get your music out to people who want to hear it and it not visible to everyone initially, that maybe that's a small number of people, and that's okay, but I think for us, like, we realized, as I said to you earlier, we realized live was the thing that kept the whole show on the road for us. So we were lucky enough that we were selling tickets, and I almost think that there's two separate industries these days. There's like the streaming numbers and the artists who are really big on. There's a lot of artists who are really big on streaming, but maybe don't sell tickets. And then there's like the other side, which I'd say we would be close to, is our streaming numbers are relatively small, but we still sell tickets wherever
Yeah.
we go. Like even if they're small number of tickets, but wherever we tour, we would sell tickets. And that has always been the thing that kept us going from a livelihood perspective is tickets equated to it. And we take, like we were saying about production and spending money, we take pride in our putting on a show. Like every album we do, we're always just trying to improve our live set. And we say that when we go into studio, we're like, okay, we see albums as pieces of work. We don't do one song at a time. We don't, we're not the type of band. We go in and record start to finish. We have the songs written, but we go in and do it like a singular piece of work. But at the same time, we do record albums with one eye on that song is going to be great live. That song is going to work well in the home straight or in the early section of the show, and we're always just trying to improve our set. And I think because we had that almost singular focus when we started of we're a live band, and we put on a good show, and that's what we're known for, and that's what we pride ourselves on. And you can't take that away from us. Even if you hate our style of music, our genre of music, even if you actually hate our music,
Yeah.
if you come to see us live, you go, okay, well, they can play it like the record. You know what I mean? I can sing in tune, and we're a tight band, and we pride ourselves on that. And I think if you can control that, that's a really good starting place. If you can make sure what and don't worry too much about creating music on a laptop or whatever, try and get in front of people and play something that is authentic to you and that people like to hear. And I think that is a really, as oftentimes I think now new acts are a little bit reluctant to start touring and start performing. Oh, I can't do that until I have a label, I have an album out, or I don't want to tour, I don't want to play small venues or whatever. And you have to find a way to make it work, whether it's just doing solo stuff or using backing tracks or whatever. Find a
Yeah.
way to make it work in a room, because at the end of the day, we talk about the music industry changing every 5 years, whether it be streaming or app, downloads or whatever it is, TikTok and all. At the end of the day, people want that experience of live music, and that's what I have taken from my life. And I still spent all day Sunday going to see different bands that I didn't really hear of, bands that I know one song, but I'll go look at them. People want that experience, and if as long as you have something interesting to offer live, um, I think that's a good place to start. So that would be the advice I would give to people, and build a good team around you. I mean, I don't know if I've mentioned it yet, but we talked about it with delegating and all that. But getting people around you, getting a manager who you trust, who is a friend. Like our manager was a friend of ours. He had no background in business, and he's ended up now being probably more successful than we are. He manages other bands. He started a music managers forum in
Nice.
Cork, and he's done lots of different things, and he's worked with lots of different people. And so getting someone that you just trust and who likes the music, that's important, because they're going to have to be around the music a lot, and
Yeah.
they're going to have to listen to a lot of sound checks. And thankfully, 15 years on from when we started, or longer, almost 20 years now, I still look down at our manager during the sound check, and he's bopping his head and he's mouthing the words, like, and it's of the old stuff even, he's been around a long time and he still likes it. And that's always just like, okay, it must sound okay out there, and that always puts my mind at ease when I see him out there. So getting good people around you is key. But yeah, I think performing and finding something authentic, that, because as I say, we see ourselves as a live band first and foremost. The albums and the recordings are stuff that we're proud of, and it's art that we put out into the world, but they sort of support that, if that makes sense, as
Mhm.
opposed to that being first and then we're just promoting the albums by touring. It's almost
Yeah.
the other way around now.
Well, you're in a lucky spot. I mean, you said you started 20 years ago and you went through the
Yeah.
CD boom, and you've seen a lot of things. With the young artists that we're working with, oftentimes they're starting from scratch. They've got nothing, and they need a little bit of everything. I think that
Yeah,
performance is so important. Creating authentically, finding a team. You're hitting the nail on the head with all these things. The reason I mentioned physical first is because a lot of them need cash. They're like, I need
yeah,
money to be able to pay for a publicist or to buy this new guitar or whatever it is. And so we've said simply that you should release, digitally. You can easily waterfall your release, because I'm a big believer
of
that
course.
consistency is important. It's not like single album, dead air for 6 months to a year. That makes no sense. Why not just do a single every 4 weeks? Then you give yourself a year of runway, which is a lot of time to create new music and whatnot. But what you can do is put that first single out and then tell your fans to expect a new single, every month, but have the vinyl or the CD ready on day one, because then all the people that want to support you, they're then buying it and they're the first and they can hear it. And
Yeah,
oh my God, I heard the album, it's fantastic.
yeah,
And the
that's a
artist
great
is
idea.
generating some revenue to help with
Yeah,
the actual process to start going, so that they can build the fan base to do what you're suggesting, which is perform and get out there and be
yeah.
in front of more people.
Yeah, it is. That's so interesting, and we do release music like that, as you say, with the waterfall, and especially with streaming. But we haven't done that with the physical first as well. I like that. Um, That's really interesting. I think that's a really good idea for artists starting off, because it is so much more difficult now than when we started. Like post COVID, I think the big stuff is still really selling, but it is hard to fill small venues and for small to medium sized bands to sell tickets. I don't know if it's the same in Vancouver, but right now in Ireland, the big stuff is still selling. Everyone's still coming to town. There's
Yeah.
huge shows. Dua Lipa played, and whoever. There's so many shows. Justin Timberlake was on the weekend. There's so many big shows, but the small to medium stuff is struggling a bit, and it's harder to sell tickets. Whereas when we started, there was like a scene. There was like a
Yeah.
student scene, and there was people just go, oh, there's a club night on, and there's a load of bands playing. We'll go down, and people got behind bands early, and they were proud that there was only 200 people at the show. Whereas now it's almost someone blows up and they go from being small to big straight away, and there's no in between. And so that would not have suited us, because we really stepped through the venues. So it is. I do think it's much harder now for bands. In a way, there's benefits to the whole streaming thing as well, and obviously you can get your music, and you're always one viral clip away from hitting the big time, I suppose. But I do think it's harder because there are some acts who have huge streaming numbers, but couldn't sell 100 tickets in their hometown because there's such a widespread of their streaming numbers as well.
Absolutely. Um, what are what's the worst and best thing about being independent, like off label? What in the last four albums that you've released, what have you said? Fuck, I missed that, or I'm
Yeah.
so happy that we have this.
I think having the control of what music you want to make and not worrying about, oh, what will the label think, hope they like this, because the whole point is you want a label who believes in the music as much as you do. So that is always on your mind. You can't separate yourself from it, because you like the music, but you want them to like it too. And sometimes you can second guess yourself. And then with single selection, and song selection and everything, having all that control is the best thing. And also, to be honest with you, there is the lot. We're only starting to see in the last couple of years, really, but owning our masters has actually had a monetary value. And now so we have two separate companies. We have our record company and we have our production company, which is our live. But the record company, now that we own our own albums, and there's four albums that we own, those Spotify numbers, even though they're not relatively big, they're still starting to trickle in now. And all of a sudden, the label is washing its face. More so than that, it's going to pay for our next record and pay for all the promotion of the next one. And then that's just going to constantly tick away in the background, with the way streaming is now. So that is one small advantage that I didn't see initially, because I just had resigned to the fact that we'll never make money from the record label in that way. So there is that thing, but the control is the other positive. The negative, I would say, when you turn on the TV and you see a band that who have just signed a huge record deal, and their song, which is only out one day, is on like an ad and a TV show, and you see a big billboard, and it's just like, okay, they're just you know dealing in different, or getting like huge support slots or huge festival slots. There's, I mean, you can, we have agents that can you can try and get them that way, but the labels have so much power when it comes to
Yeah,
promotion that you
that's
just can't. Yeah,
sorry. I was just gonna say that's the carrot, right? That's
yeah,
they play on the creative or the artist's desire for success and have all the accolades, and they dangle that, and then you lose focus on what you're actually doing.
yeah.
And that's a tough balance for anyone, right? Like
Yeah.
wanting something versus staying present. Uh,
Absolutely. And you find that often some of the biggest artists in the world are the ones that end up falling out with their record labels.
yeah,
They're the ones who are like, oh, no way, I'm leaving this record label, or, I'm going to just record an album of covers to get out of my deal or whatever, and that's the type of thing that happens, because there is that constant battle. It's like, yeah, I want to be success. I want this, but do I really want, my songs on a certain ad or whatever? And you're
Yeah.
sort of you're compromising certain things, I suppose. But yeah, it is that fine line. But I wouldn't change it. Like as I said, we've seen both sides. We've seen all three sides, in that we had a sort of independent local label, as you said, with our first three records, and then we had the major label and the major publishing deal with Big Life as well. We're a big publisher in the UK, and now we have our publishing back and our masters back, and we're our own label. And I honestly wouldn't change it. Like there's certain things you look at it, and go, okay, well we'll never get that because we're not with a major label. Or you see something happen, you go, okay, we can't do
Yeah.
that. But there's other things to it. I also look at some made big acts, and I'm like, oh, I don't envy them. Look at that touring schedule. Like,
Yeah.
and we're now at a stage in our lives. Our bass player has two young kids. Our drummer has a daughter, and we can manage that work life balance, like what you're saying earlier on. They're really good fathers too, even though we tour, but we can choose when we tour, and we
Yeah.
can we can choose our schedules and go, well, we don't want. We'll do this in this month, and you know, and we can work as much as suits us. And as I say, as soon as we started our own label, we almost started working more, because we had that. Okay, the book stops with us, So
Yeah.
uh, it has been an interesting journey, but we are really lucky. The thing why we're really lucky is that anomaly that I was talking about earlier on with streaming and ticket sales, and in a sense we're not in a sense, we sell more tickets than as big as we are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we've been around before the streaming thing and all that sort of stuff, and that puts us in a lucky sort of position. And if you could give me one or the other, would you rather be like really successful just from streams alone and have so many streams and have loads of money from streams because you're selling millions and millions of streams, or be able to be a touring band? I would tell you that I would way rather that. That's where like what I was saying earlier on, we pride ourselves in playing live. That's where we get our kick,
Yeah.
like the reaction from the crowd. That's what it's all about. And as long as we get to do that to a crowd of whatever size, whether it's to Glastonbury or Vogue Theatre in Vancouver now next month, that's cool for us. We played there before. It's a great venue, and like I'll be buzzing for that show. Like, and even though I think the cap there is 800-900 people, and I can't wait for that. Like,
Mm.
and the size doesn't matter as much as long as we get to do it and we're continuing getting to play to people. So that's definitely where my heart is performing live. So hopefully we can keep that. And again, that was one of the problems when we signed with Ireland. We had just come off supporting the Script, a big Irish band all around Europe, and we were like, okay, let's follow that up and do our small little tour ourselves. We wanted to work, and they were like, no, 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 we got to wait. We got to wait until you release this next single, and release it to radio and see where it hits, and then we'll book a tour. And we were like, what? Like, let's just go. Like, we wanted to work, and they were almost not letting us work because it was going to cost them money because they were signed to it. We were signed to them, and it was just like, so we have to just wait. It's just like waiting, and that's what often labels are doing. They sign 10 bands. I saw this Instagram reel come up there recently of an A&R guy talking about, the biggest myth in music industry is like $1 million record deal was like they have to spend that money, otherwise it's going to the tax man. They're better off just rolling the dice on a total outsider and go, let's find the next Rihanna or whatever, and spend $1 million on a great singer. And if it's not, that's not really lost money. That's money that would have gone. It's written off. It would have gone to the tax man anyway. That's they're just spending some profit, and on the off chance that it goes huge. And so that's always the danger with the major labels, I think. And we're lucky that we don't have to worry about that again. But in saying that, like, listen, I'd be lying if Warner or Capital or whoever came to us tomorrow and said, you know what, we like your new demos. Do you want to roll the dice again with a major? I would do it as long as we had our 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 security set in place, going, yeah, okay, if you make us bigger, you can take 80%.
Yeah.
Fire away. I don't mind that. Like, we were never too precious with that, and if they're adding value, then I'm all for it. Like we're not the type of that it's like we got to keep everything in house and got to. That's why when this podcast is over, I'll probably be talking to you about your own company and maybe when we could possibly work together in Canada. But just in general, as I say, we license albums out and we've done all that stuff anyway. So it's not like I'm anti record label. Like I get it. Like I get
Mhm.
that it's 1 in 10 bands and the people that we worked with in Ireland Records were lovely. Like and but they have their remit and they have what they need to do. And yeah, it's just a funny industry and they know it. They'll tell you
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like
I mean, you said it earlier, success is subjective, right? So it's not a matter of signing a deal is the worst thing ever. It comes down to who you are, what your goals are, where you are in your life or in your learning process. I mean, you had to go through a whole bunch of different things to get to where you are now, and you're still saying, I'd consider it. I remember in university, one of my professors saying it was this concept of learn how to live within society without society, meaning,
yeah,
learn the system, take advantage of the system, but don't fall victim to the system.
yeah, that's very
And
good.
yeah, and I think the same thing applies to not just the music industry, but tons of industries. Publishing, like
Yeah,
book publishing, is another one where there's so many pitfalls.
absolutely.
Uh, it's to summarize, it sounds like stay true to yourself. Make
Yeah,
the best art that you can make for yourself. And if other people love it, that's even better. Surround yourself with a really good team, people that you trust, people that also love what you're doing and aren't just, with you because they want the paycheck.
exactly.
And then work hard and expand. And then, you'll find your niche eventually at some point. Play loud.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's it. It might not be what you thought was your Everest initially. And when we started this band, I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't want to be as big as Coldplay or whatever. But it took me a while to realize, okay, well, maybe again, there's no guarantee that that would have made me happy anyway. But
Yeah.
it's fine and going with it when something goes well, going yeah, and being ready to work. When you mentioned it earlier on as well, there's undoubtedly you're going to need luck along the way, and we had it. I can give you numerous things that just little moments that happened for us, timing at home, that really just took us on a little level. And you could say that was a moment for us. We did that song just connected at the right time or was
Yeah.
got playlisted at the right time or we did a performance that went a little bit viral at home or whatever. But you just have to be ready when you get that little bit of luck to work hard and to follow it up and be like, okay, I'm good, let's go with this. And I
Yeah.
think that's important too.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I've learned over the last couple of years that it was beaten into me by life and the universe and therapists and then myself was that everything happens as it's supposed to.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't matter how good or bad it's happening. You are where you're supposed to be at all times. And not everyone's going to believe that, and that's fine. This is what I
yeah,
believe. I believe that I am exactly where I'm supposed to be all the time. I mean, I had a daughter, my third child, and then a week later on Father's Day, I lost her. And it was the
oh
most
man,
brutal thing I've ever been through
so
my entire
sorry.
life. And I could
Yeah,
have gone inwards and like start to obsess and it's not fair and screw this, but I found solace in the fact that this is what was meant to happen. Not doesn't make it easier, but that's what kept me going. And so I agree
yeah,
with you that whether you have a hit and it takes off or you don't, all of this is what's meant to be. And the more you accept that, and the more you are grateful for the moment and enjoy the ride, the more that the next thing will come. Right, that what's meant
exactly.
will.
Exactly what's meant to be, for sure. It's funny you say that. I have a tattoo in my arm here in Irish, in Gaelic, and it says a reason for everything, like what you're talking about. Cúis le cuilim ní ascuelga in Irish, which means a reason for everything. Yeah. So,
Amen.
and again, it's funny. It's just a mindset. It's not like I don't know if I fully believe that there is literally a reason for everything, but it is just a mindset of okay, and this is what it is. Let's move forward and let's
Yeah.
persevere.
Well, so speaking of Irish, I would be remiss if I didn't mention one of my new favorite artists who happens to be someone that my company is working with. Garrett Anthony Rice. Give him a quick shout out. He's
Oh,
an
nice.
Irish singer songwriter and has a fascinating story because he's had a whole career doing something entirely different from music, family, and now he's in his I believe 40s, and his music's phenomenal, and he's managed to
Cool.
hook up with a great producer. Um, the reason I bring it up is because he has a song. Oh my goodness, I'm looking at my notes. So it's kind of an ode to Roger Sidney Barrett, one of the co-founders of Pink Floyd,
Cool.
and he really like envies his music and his creative guitaring, and he does a lot of that as well. But in the music video, in the song, he has this line, "Respect the king," and he does this cool thing with his hand, like "Respect the king." And then I got this Biggie Small shirt, and we got the crown and "Respect the king," and it's the coronas. What does the crown mean to you now after all this time? What's
Oh, wow.
the
Yeah, you mean you think we're the crowns, as in the coronas? Yeah,
corona? Corona
yeah,
is like
yeah.
corona
It's
is
crowned.
crown,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
you mentioned
Yeah,
you mentioned the virus too. Like that's corona is the of the
yeah,
mind,
yeah,
right? Like mind
yeah,
virus.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, I suppose for us is again just loving what you do is what makes you the king, I suppose. And but like our name initially was from a typewriter, you know, the Corona Smith typewriter, an old school
Yeah.
typewriter. But we knew that it had a lot of different sort of meanings at the time. Little did we know, even when we started the band, there was no Corona Extra, the beer, either, or at least we didn't have it here in Dublin. Like, but we knew that there was a lot of different sort of meanings for it. But yeah, I think you know to love what you do is the key. Like, and without getting too cliched as we talked about, but I honestly feel so lucky that I every day is different. I don't have a 9 to 5 schedule. I did that before when I was younger, and it did. I don't think it agreed with me. I'm better off just feeling like, yeah, I don't know, that my work is my passion as well, and I
Yeah.
think that's key. As long as you're passionate about what you do, you won't feel like you're working at all, and I think that's what makes us kings. you
You
know.
know what? You laugh, but I think that there's some really heavy truth there that
Yeah.
we are our own kings and queens, however we want to, identify. We are our own kings, and respect the king for me now more than ever means respect yourself. Put that
Absolutely.
power
Yeah.
stuff to yourself, because if you don't see yourself that way, then you're immediately putting yourself down, and you're not going to have the same potential outcome that if you respect the king. So
a
maybe
hundred
the
percent.
cause is just these lads that are each their own kings because they're authentically creating for themselves.
Yes, exactly. Well, I think so. That's as good an answer as I could give for sure. So let's go with that. I love it.
Okay, we'll wrap up. I just wanted to go backwards, like all the way
Sure.
to the beginning,
Yeah.
and it was actually the same artist, Garrett Anthony Rice, that mentioned this, because he lives in your community,
Mm.
in your hometown, or in your area. Apparently you come from a musical family. I think your mom was also a musician, and you've mentioned now
Yeah.
that your sister is too. Tell me a little bit about Danny the kid and Danny. Like, how did you become this guy that I'm talking to?
Yeah, well, he's right. My mother is still a touring musician, would you believe? She turned 70
Wow.
this year. I'm sure she won't mind me telling you, but she still tours a little bit, not as much as she used to, but like she's a folk singer called Mary Black,
Mm.
and she toured all over the world, and we were lucky, you know, we got to see it. We got to see how happy it made her. People always ask me, you know, because my brother's not in the industry. Yeah, my sister is, but my brother's not. My brother has a regular job. He works for Irish Rail, like building. He's an engineer. He builds like railroads, and
Cool.
so yeah. But my mother never forced music upon us. Yeah, she encouraged us to get guitar lessons and encouraged us to write our own songs from an early age, which definitely stood with me. I think I wrote my first song when I was 12. and it was, so bad. Some would say my songs are still bad, but anyway, she encouraged us to write early, and uh, but I could see how happy it made her and my dad. My dad was also in the industry; he was her manager, and I
Hmm.
could see just how happy their job made them. Like what I was saying about not feeling like I had to go to work any day. They would at the dinner table they'd be just talking about music and then what's on the horizon and what gigs are coming up and how our album is doing and if what songs on the album, and it was just part of the conversation, and there was never any difference between work and fun and not work. Work was just there. It was just part of the life, and I think that definitely stood with me for sure. So, and I think growing up in venues as well, and getting to see my mom play in big venues and getting comfortable with the surroundings of being on stage, I suppose, even as a kid, definitely stood to me, and just writing my own music definitely stood to me as well. But between my childhood and now, like we've had such a great life in this band. We started as students, and we had no idea what we were doing, and we just were having a good time, and we toured the world, and we had so much fun in our 20s. Maybe we lacked a little bit of focus, but listen, we learned a lot, and I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it at all. And yeah, it led us here. 8 albums later, and I'm halfway through writing album number 9, and I don't want to stop. Like I hope it continues. I love what I do, and thankfully there's still an audience there for us. And I still think I still think we've got something to say, If we were just like a nostalgia band, like those bands you talked about who had one big album and they only wanted to hear the first album of hits, I would do that. I would take that. I love performing live so much. I'd have no problem. I'd play the one hit 4 times in the set. I've no problem doing that. But luckily, we're at the stage now where there's still an interest in our new music, and maybe we didn't get too big early on, which helped us. Yeah, but we just had this constant little journey, and it's been so much fun, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So we're at a great place, and this chat, Chris, has really put me in a good mood as well. This is like the gratitude of post Glastonbury gratitude. So I appreciate it. It's been really nice chatting to you, and yeah, I feel like going to write a song right now.
I appreciate it too. We've both been in this industry for a while in different parts, and I mean, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I get to message a publicist and book a call like this and just have a chat, and we'll see where it goes.
Absolutely.
Danny, I really, really appreciate your time today. It's been such an amazing chat and conversation, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing you in Vancouver in a few days. And
Yeah.
I have a feeling that you have a lot more music coming in the future.
Thank you very much, Chris. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
You too.